Welcome to the exciting October edition of the Road to. We're going to talk about Loudoun County politics a little later. Right now, we're going to introduce our regulars and our guest panelists. I am Patti Morrissey, your host. I always forget that. Jim Parmelee, one of our long veteran pundits.
Hi. Oh yeah, Jim Parmelee. I run the Northern Virginia Republican PAC, and I host a few shows on this station.
Mm-hmm. For many years, right?
For quite a while.
John Flannery, on the left.
On the left. Well, Jim, that's the shortest introduction I've ever heard you make. I know that it has nothing to do with Trump, because what could one say this year? I think there's a news flash that you should know about, that this morning Trump announced that he is going to be nasty in the next debate.
Wait, is this the introduction?
Which surprises me, because I thought he'd already exceeded that. I'm John Flannery, and I'm a recovering federal prosecutor. You never get over having that power. And I've been interested in politics obsessively since I was a young man in the Bronx. And I ran for office last year to join the Soil and Water Conservation District, and the voters allowed me to assume that post. I practice with another Campbell, Jim Campbell, but Ron and I could practice together. And I'm excited about this election, and I'm excited about being with my good friend Jim, the loyal opposition, and my other colleagues.
All right,
so
welcome,
good to
John.
see you. Thank you.
And speaking of Campbell, we have Ron Campbell here, who is running for town council in Leesburg.
Yes.
And this is your first time on the show, so take a little time and tell us who you are.
Great. Well, thank you. It's exciting to be here. I've always watched these shows and said, if I was on one of these shows, this is what I would say. So now I have
Here
my
you
opportunity.
go.
Right.
I thought you were going to say you watch them and you say, who are these people?
Sometimes I do. But I'm also from the Bronx. I'm a 16-year resident, my wife and I, of Leesburg, Virginia. I spent over 27 years working for various colleges and universities as an administrator and in finance and operations. And really, I've always been an activist, always wanted to be engaged in my community and wanted to be that voice that always got to be heard. So I decided, along with my family this year, to run for Leesburg Town Council, because we do believe that we do need to break up the network of just the same people running the same types of dysfunctions that we've all seen, and believe that our voice can make a difference in our community.
And we'll get to some of the specific issues later. Family, do you have children too?
We have 4 grown children, 3 boys and a girl. We have 6 grandchildren,
Awesome.
4 boys and 2 girls.
Awesome.
And the girls rule.
Oh. Speaking of that, Liz Miller,
Hi.
who is regularly a guest panelist, but is on here so much, she's a pundit.
I'm Liz Miller. I am on the board of Naral Pro-Choice Virginia Foundation. We are a nonprofit that seeks to change the dialogue around abortion and women's rights in Virginia, and we're doing a pretty good job. I'm really excited about the future in Virginia. And I met Ron 2 years ago, November, at a wonderful breakfast, and he and his wife are just the most wonderful people, and I hope that he wins.
All right, great.
Thank you.
All right, well, guess what we're going to start off talking about, guys?
Could it be Trump?
This
Excuse me,
week.
the debate.
But let's
the
start
debate.
with Monday night, the debate. I guess I should maybe let Jim go first. Since
Okay. That's fine. No, I mean, I thought he won the debate. We were joking before the show started. I mentioned that I thought he had won the debate. He's a first-time candidate, and I thought it went pretty well. There were a couple of rough spots, but
when you say won, how did you evaluate that?
well, I
from your
thought, I
perspective?
mean, right off the bat,
What did
I mean,
you like?
this election is going to be about people want change, and the question is, for a lot of folks, is can Donald Trump be president? And they don't want more of the last 8 years. They want something different, and so much like, and I'm not necessarily comparing the two, so don't jump to conclusions, but like Ronald Reagan, people wanted to fire Jimmy Carter, but they wanted to see if they thought Reagan could do it. And I think particularly in the last debate, Reagan showed he could be, he proved to perhaps undecided folks that he could be president, and the rest is history. Donald Trump needs to show, if he's to be elected president, that he can be president. And I think in the first debate, even though it wasn't perfect, I thought he did well, and then I go and check the post and other things. Go online, start looking at the comments, and of course a lot of if you're for Hillary, you're bashing him, and if you're for Trump, you're praising him. So it's you got to try to figure out what the undecideds thought. But I thought if you were looking in and you were undecided and you saw his presence and how he was handling things and thought about the contrast between where the economy is now and where it could be, I think it works well for Trump.
All right, let's go to John. First of all, comparison between Reagan's trajectory and Donald Trump.
I remember I said it wasn't a direct, but I pointed out there were in similar situations, people wanting change. I'm not calling anybody Reagan.
Okay, fair.
Well,
fair.
there was an incumbent president, and then there was that was a very complicated situation. But just comparing Reagan to Trump, Reagan had headed a major entertainment union. He had been the governor of California. He'd been running for the presidency for years and had failed to make the final cut, as happens to candidates. And his time came, and he became the nominee. So he was not a green politician by any means. And he had a visibility that was much more user-friendly than certainly Trump. Trump has been a reality TV star, and basically he's made his living by being nasty and you're fired and this kind of aggressive in-your-face thing, which is typical of reality TV. Now, as for who won the debate, obviously maybe my credibility is compromised by the fact that I feel very strongly for Hillary, but we don't have to go by my judgment. One of the tests is a couple of days after a debate like this, how did the nation react? And the polls are coming in, and she's pulled ahead in Florida, where he was ahead, and she's pulled ahead in New Hampshire, according to the polls. That's the polls today. It's been a very volatile year.
And he's pulled ahead in Ohio, and so I mean it's a mixed
bag.
bag.
But Ohio is not the factor that it used to be, and pulling ahead in Ohio is not going to be one of the critical states. It's critical for him. It's not her path to 270, the necessary number of electoral votes by which he could become the president. So it's volatile, and this year, there's still a lot of time. But he's damaged goods. He's damaged goods, and he should have been sooner. He's damaged goods when you see a flood of Republicans not remaining silent, but coming out for Hillary. And we're talking about every living former president, Republicans and Democrats. And there's no surprise with Obama, who appointed her Secretary of State. And I think it's a choice as a patriot to be taking care of America and defending ourselves against the possibility of having a weak, incompetent leader who lies all the time about everything. And we're not talking about mistakes or exaggerations. We're talking about flat-out lies. He made it a center of his campaign that he was against going into Iraq. Well, he said on a show with the shock jock that he was fine with it. So you can't have it both ways.
That's not exactly what
Well,
he
you
said.
can say it's not exactly, but it sure isn't
wasn't-
saying it's
in any
against
case,
it.
That is a problem, and that is a problem with
He
this
wasn't in a place to
campaign.
make a decision about anything at that time.
The-
So let's go to your
the thing-
impression of the debate.
Obviously, I'm in the bag for Hillary Clinton. I'm knocking doors for her this afternoon. I've knocked doors for her weekly for the last several months. She's awesome. But when Rudy Giuliani, with whom I disagree about almost everything, says that he thought that she won, I'm pretty confident that she won.
When did he say that?
He said it
I don't
on
remember
Tuesday.
him saying that at all.
Actually, it was a Monday night. He said that.
He made an
I'm
excuse for it.
I'm going to paraphrase. I'm
that's-
paraphrasing. He won. She won. When what he said about Trump was that it wasn't his greatest performance, but he has two more to make it up.
Well, that doesn't mean
Guys,
he didn't say she won.
Let's get to the content.
That's the
okay?
problem with this campaign.
Let's
Everyone
get to
hears
the
what they
heart
want to hear.
of what it.
and then he said he
What
wouldn't
struck
vote the
you?
next two.
Okay, we're all going to try to be objective, right? In theory.
Right.
What struck you from issues,
theory.
from presentation about the debate?
Well, let's talk about expectations. Expectations weren't the highest I've had in watching any debate in terms of what it might devolve into, in terms of this nasty battle and name calling. And in that sense, Hillary spoke about policies. Trump talked about Hillary. the interruptions, I thought, should have been better moderated on behalf of Lester Holt. Let us have a real debate on substance and match knowledge, skills, and experience. That did not happen. So to that extent, Hillary did a better job of expressing why she's better prepared to be president, and Trump did a better job of expressing why he's still only going to be Trump.
She also pointed out some of his personal things, but let me go to Jim too, because there were people saying that Trump started out okay because he was hitting the trade issue. How do you think that resonates with the voters? Because the Republican Party has historically been all about free trade. It's a global economy. We must, be in a free trade.
Well, I support free trade, and I think, I don't agree with, there are a number of things I don't agree with Donald Trump on, much like a lot of Republicans. We don't all agree on everything, big tent and all. But I think he has pointed out some potential problems with some trade agreements, and I think there are a lot of conservatives out there, a lot of people out there who are upset about TPP, and it's a huge proposal. There are a lot of moving parts,
Who
and
even
so
understands? I mean,
I'll admit I don't fully understand the whole plan because, quite frankly, that's not my major area of expertise.
Right.
I support free trade, but I think what Donald Trump is suggesting is renegotiating.
Who do Republicans listen to? Because it seems like a throwback, right, to, I don't know, the 70s maybe, that
a lot of union
people
Democrats,
are afraid.
a lot of union Democrats who might be voting for Donald Trump on this issue.
Is that a deliberate strategy to attract?
I think one thing about Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, is he generally, people believe he believes what he believes. They may believe when he says things that some people may, he says things, but people think he's speaking from the heart, even if he's inartful at it sometimes, or even if they disagree with him. I think he's
a
heart
sincere
changes-
misogynist.
His heart changes on a daily basis.
He's a sincere misogynist bigot.
I'm
right
not
back
sure
to you.
someone
John,
supporting
go
the Clinton campaign should be
into
talking
some
about
issues
that.
you felt in the debate, strictly issues that were really critical, substantive issues for the country.
Well, what's a critical issue, it seems to me, is whether our president has a conflict when he assumes office or she assumes office. And there was a twofer discussing his personal taxes. First of all, he's not being transparent. And as a lawyer and a fellow who's had some association with litigation involving taxes, an audit is no bar, like they said at the debate, to revealing it. I thought Hillary did a good job of outlining what could be the reason for him withholding and having nothing to do with the audit. And I thought he was helpful in making an admission for the first time that it appears he has paid no taxes, or mostly not paid taxes, and that he thinks paying no taxes and taking advantage of economic disaster for citizens is something that a businessman should do.
John, I think you can.
Well, let me finish. I didn't interrupt you. I did not interrupt you.
But you got to say.
I did not interrupt you. And I think that in terms of having a president in difficult times talking about helping people with jobs, who's not empathetic to the unemployed and not sympathetic even to the employers in his own business, and who walks away from contracts with contractors, and this is like micro. So what kind of a policy as a president does any man or woman have who's already had a lifetime in which they think it's fine to walk away from debt, to declare bankruptcy, to stiff vendors, employees, to lie? This character issue is unbelievable.
So, as Jim pointed out, though, we only know 2 years when he was required.
No, that's not true. We only know 2 years he didn't pay taxes.
We only know 2 years he didn't pay any taxes, but he hasn't denied that that's a problem.
But we do know that he hasn't.
Smart.
But we do know that he hasn't paid vendors.
Businesses don't pay taxes; they don't have to generally.
We do know he hasn't paid vendors. We do know he didn't pay his caterer. We know he didn't pay his window glazier. We know he didn't pay the guy who brought all the pianos into his building.
Do we know why in any of those instances?
But if all of them weren't doing a good job, then what does that say about him as being a hirer?
Well,
Can I just jump in for a
I'm
second?
sorry.
What does that say about him
when they built Nats Park, the learners, who are fine business folks, the learners were holding off on a lot of things, demanding on the on their checklist at the end, and the public attacked them. They were simply making sure the agreement was worked out as planned. That's what business folks, the learners did a fine job.
Patty, your question was what's important to
I don't know
Americans.
whether they paid or
right?
what they paid or didn't pay.
Americans don't care about his taxes or her taxes. They do care about jobs, and that was important to talk about and what happened to this economy and real solutions. They do care about housing and fairness in housing and affordable options that don't get us back into an economic downturn. They do care about the safety of this country and the safety of themselves in light of all the things that are going on with our police in our communities and murders in our communities. They do care about taxes, their taxes, and what's happening to the economy and the middle class
Don't you think
and solutions.
that
Not
Don't
whether or
you
not he
think
paid
to
a piano
say
player.
I'm smart that I didn't pay any taxes when we have, at the same time you're saying, oh my God, we have a huge deficit. A billionaire, a self-declared billionaire, doesn't pay any taxes and thinks and is proud of it.
Some of us have had to live with this arrogance.
What is wrong with you folks?
know?
Hold on, let me ask you this.
Right.
Do you intentionally overpay? Does everyone here intentionally overpay their taxes?
Does anyone here not pay any taxes?
No, that's not the question.
That is the question.
You know
That is
how
exactly
these things
the
work.
question.
Sometimes the taxes are very high. Sometimes they're low. It depends on your deductions. Depends on a lot of things. And when you're a billionaire who's got a lot of businesses, we know that those things go up and down. So I mean, it's not like he deleted 33,000 emails in order to avoid being going
Well,
to
he
jail.
should be your poster
Like
child.
Hillary Clinton
He
did.
should be your poster
lawyers.
child. He should be Jim's poster child, and he is, because he pays absolutely no taxes, and Jim doesn't believe in taxes.
being
So
left-
that's why he's your
How do we then
candidate.
solve the tax problem, right?
My
we
poor,
wouldn't be in this
impoverished
studio
friend
without
over
taxes.
here.
Should not bring up
I
the
pay
detail
taxes.
when your
So I pay
candidate
taxes.
So is that-
deleted a whole lot of email against court order. So
Who did?
Your candidate deleted a whole lot of email
He
against
deleted.
court order.
I'm sorry. He deleted 33,000 emails that were supposed to be archived by the government because he was trying to hide
but
and
he-
set up a private
he
server. He
also
put up a
did it
private
under-
server in order to avoid government scrutiny of his emails.
If you're going to be talking about email, you should talk about your candidates deleting email under which he wasn't supposed to do under court order. The only reason why he's not in prison at the moment is because he settled that case. He was going
So
to
he
get.
settled it, so there was no problem.
He was going to get put into prison for contempt of court because he deleted email that he was not supposed to be deleted.
they don't. If there
And
was
he
a
actually
settlement,
is
there
under
was
court
no
order for
problem.
that.
Can we get out of the weeds right now, okay? Because
But that's an important national security issue. But that is a pattern of Hillary's problems. Hillary has been involved in scandals for decades where she hides information.
Made up. Okay.
No, they're not.
They're made up.
If you did half the things she did, you guys would be. We would all be in jail.
A friend of mine said
If
that
you were a
about
woman,
If
that's
you
true.
were-
But if you're a man,
if you work for the government, and those of us here, anyone here work for the government?
Let's get to legal issues by
Go to jail.
asking the
You would go
lawyer.
to jail.
Go ahead, John.
as the lawyer of this panel,
would have a busy
how many
business.
times have you said to me, John, what about the presumption of innocence?
Right.
Okay, has she
We-
ever been?
we
Has she
know-
been indicted? Has she been convicted?
John,
ever?
you're a lawyer.
I
You're
am a lawyer. Yes, I concede
If
guilty.
anybody on the panel here, would you advise anybody on the panel here to delete all the evidence?
Not when there was a court order,
'Cause you
but
go
if
to
I
jail for that, don't
well,
you?
I can.
She
I
didn't
can
delete. Her lawyers deleted the personal stuff. Let's not.
Under her, did the lawyers set up the private server and direct everything
Should I
to
have
that?
in a
access to
house
your
that was
private
controlled by
emails?
the
Yes or no?
Secret Service.
the
It's
house-
not
Should
like-
I
it's
have
not like
access
it's
to
not
your
like
private
our
email?
business.
Okay.
I doubt the Secret Service
Okay,
knew the server
but-
was even there.
Should I have
All right,
access to
I'm
Colin
going to
Powell?
call a timeout and let Liz, our female pundit, talk about some of the women's issues that spun off the debate.
One of the things that a friend, I just wanted to say, one of the things that a friend said this week was that people before the debate had been talking about the Hillary's high bar and Trump's low bar as though they were running hurdles. And Trump turned it into a limbo dance.
Nice.
like
All right,
that.
let's talk about how things played out.
Well, what's really interesting to me is about Trump is how he can't let go of attacks on his ego. being told that he made an incorrect decision about something or that he was wrong about something. He can't let that go. And so instead of saying, well, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have called Miss Universe Miss Piggy or Miss Housekeeping, maybe I shouldn't have gotten all of the reporters into the room to watch her exercise. Okay, you're right, I made a mistake. Instead of saying that, he doubled down, and yesterday at 3:40 in the morning, was it 3:40 in the morning?
Yeah, it's 3 to 5 a.m.
He
I don't know what he's
tweets
doing.
about how horrible Miss Universe was and that she has a sex tape. Now, I don't know if she has a sex tape. I don't care if she has a sex tape.
Let me amend that just for a second. What he said was he sent out a tweet saying, there's a Venezuelan tape out there and I want you to find it for me. This is the worst kind of slander that you could possibly do to a lady. And it's recognized at law to be a specific kind of slander. So he's gone from fat shaming, as they call it, to now questioning her morality about a video that he doesn't have and no one has seen, and he's publishing it as if it exists.
They did find a video with him, a Playboy video with him introducing it. Yeah.
Yeah, and
with him introducing a video.
Yeah, and it was
Yes.
a soft porn video, and he's in it.
Hold on.
Not in the soft
See,
porn
now
part,
hold
but
on.
no,
Yeah,
he pops a bottle of champagne, pours it on the Playboy bunny sign, and then it goes into the rest of it.
Talking about letting things go.
Yeah,
that's
talking about our next president.
You guys are talking about how he can't let
It's
things
crazy.
go. Hillary Clinton.
I'm going to
Hillary
elevate the
Clinton's
conversation by going to
I'm
Ron.
talking about, can we talk about Hillary's penchant for secrecy after we talk with Ron?
Ron needs to talk first.
The conversation is what's at stake here, and sometimes the character. And, people want to look at, okay, which part of the population, appeals to each presidential candidate and why. And even that came up as even Hillary made a claim about the nature and the character of Trump supporters, looking at versus Hillary supporters. What we're not talking about, though, is the nature of trust and respect. And we're having a conversation about character, and we know Congress, politicians, business people are flawed to begin with. And some of us have to live with that. And some of us are more impacted by others on that. So the nature of even what we're talking about here today a little bit is offensive in the sense of what's at stake. I'd like to see a presidential candidate on both sides that rise to the bar of saying leadership, competence, experience, quality for the serious issues that we have going on. And whether or not he did this or she did that, this is what we're faced with today. And should Trump have been on that stage? If you ask me, I say no, because he doesn't meet that bar for me and maybe many other citizens like me at stake. So to talk about one privileged part of our society as if that's what we have to talk about, and then the other less fortunate sides, I think we've got two different conversations that we need to have in this country.
Well, I think the Jerry Springerization of the election has greatly distracted, as you say, from the actual content of comparing the policies. Liz, do you?
The three of us are from New York, and I think that we all remember what Trump was, what Trump meant before the Trump Towers. We know
Roy
that
Cohn and
Yes.
associations with the mob is
And-
one of the things I
and,
can't believe has not been in the campaign.
being discriminatory in rentals against African Americans and Jews, being discriminatory in a whole host of ways. It's the things that Trump says now about Hispanics and about Muslims are the things that his family said about African Americans back in the 70s. And I think if you take a look at Twitter, they still say it. And that's important. That is an important thing. We should not have a president who is absolutely, unashamedly, unabashedly, continuously racist. We shouldn't.
Well, we don't have neither candidate running as that, so I'm not sure what you're talking about. I mean, you're saying that Donald Trump is unabashedly racist.
Yes.
Yes.
So you were making a moral judgment on
Jim,
what
are
he
you
believes.
okay with the
not
Muslim ban?
What he, first of all, he did not. You're exaggerating what he said, and I think one thing that came out, one thing that was pointed out, I was surprised.
You can't exaggerate what he says. What he says is unbelievable.
Miss Universe, when I believe it was the Miss Universe pageant, whether it was Miss USA, or I guess she became Miss Universe. I'm not certain. I didn't follow it. A Muslim, an Arab American, I guess, she was under attack having won the pageant, and Donald Trump came to her defense. And I think that's something that the media hasn't really talked about. Donald Trump has his daughter, one of his daughters is Jewish. So when you say that he is against Jews, against Muslims, I think you're over-exaggerating. You are trying to paint this man as a racist,
his
whereas
character
we don't
flaw,
know what he believes.
His character flaw, and it's a serious one, is if you just
You can
disagree
with his policies.
He doesn't have policies. He is a used car salesman that spins on the dime for whatever the devil he thinks is going to work in that instance, and that's how he contradicts himself.
But when you call somebody racist, that is a
He is a racist. He is a racist.
You can say
All right, Ron's going to jump in
complain
here.
about policies you believe
You guys,
to be
we've got
racist,
40 seconds
things
till
like
break.
that.
I want Ron to take us into
Awfully
break.
A wall
serious
around the
charge.
nation.
You
Shut
know
up,
what?
old timers.
And
Okay,
I don't think the term racist is used lightly. And the best predictor of what his future performance is going to be is his past performance. And so if you ask me, do I trust Donald Trump? I trust him to be what he's always been and what he currently is. And I think we just have to take that on face value. I can't make him to be something he's not. So I can only take what he gives me, what he's given in the past, how he treats people, how he treats women, how he treats people of color.
Okay.
That's just the reality.
We got to go to break. Thank you for that summary. And we will be right back in the second half to kind of bring it down to the local. And we'll probably get back to this stuff too. See you in a minute.
Events of September 11th, there have been hundreds of violent attacks against innocent Americans.
Remember what that flag you're waving stands for. Remember, please stop the hate.
We're stronger when we are united.
Remember
what that flag you're waving stands for. One nation.
Under God.
Indivisible.
With liberty.
And justice.
For all.
in America, there's either room for everyone or it's not America.
Don't pick the wrong fight.
Let's keep America land of the free.
Stop the hate.
You'd never know it on the battlefield, but nearly half of today's military are National Guard and reservists. However, they can't answer our nation's call without their employer's support. If you're an employer, visit esgr.org and find out how to do your part. After all, their response depends on yours.
This is Mommy's bed. Me and Jenny were jumping on it. Mommy's gun fell on the floor. I was a cowboy. Bang, 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 bang. I said, Jenny, wake up, it's just pretend. But she wouldn't wake up.
I'm sick of this. I'm sick of dealing with you. I'm sick of
I work 6 days a week.
Who
do you think you
Stand
are?
up straight. Don't you ever talk back to me again! You just shut up!
What are you crying about?
What a child learns about violence, a child learns for life. Teach carefully. We can show you how. Act Against Violence. Call 877-ACT-WISE for a free brochure.
Sweetheart, smoke outside now. You promised.
Okay, hon.
Sweetheart, smoke outside now. You promised.
What kind of man are you?
I'm a father.
Look here, my father was a father, and he smoked his brains out in the house.
Watch as he blows those smoke rings on my little red face.
You probably have asthma.
Asthma? Schmasthma. I'm telling you, nothing's gonna happen to your kids. I swear.
Don't swear when you're lying. You know very well that thousands of kids get bronchitis, ear infections, and even pneumonia from their parents' cigarette smoke. And didn't you promise your little angels you'd smoke outside?
Hey, Daddy.
Those little devils are just so sweet.
Do the right thing.
Please, smoke outside.
Until you can stop, go out for your kids.
Take the pledge. Call 1-800-513-1157.
As time flows on, there are places we return to again and again. Precious places. Timeless places. Places that, with your help, can endure forever. I'm Paul Newman. Help the Nature Conservancy save the last great places around the world.
Welcome back to the second half of the Road 2. We're having a lively discussion, but we're going to take it down a notch. We're going to focus on our special guest, Ron Campbell, who's running for Leesburg Town Council. And this will be of interest to definitely our Loudoun viewers. Yes. And just want to talk about what your vision is for Leesburg, because there's a lot of issues with more development, less development. How do you bring people to the heart of what is a beautiful historic town?
Well, great, thank you. Leesburg is a beautiful historic town. It's got a very diverse and not always inclusive history in terms of representing all the growth it has in the people who've been in Leesburg over the last 20 years. But Leesburg is the largest town in Virginia. It's the county seat of Loudoun County, the richest county in the country, and yet we still have, I think, issues and problems like any other city. And we also have our politics. Leesburg is supposed to be a nonpartisan town council representing what I call people over politics. And yet we know that that doesn't happen maybe in the ways that it should happen. So I think Leesburg has got extremely complicated of blending its growth, its roads, its schools, its housing. And for me, what that should really mean is how are we advocates for our residents? How are we advocates with federal, state, local elected officials to really help Leesburg maintain some of that historic culture, but also grow into its future. So I've decided to run because I realize that the process is broken. Maybe people are too partisan, and solutions, real solutions, aren't being discussed. At the end of the day, you need a vote, and no matter whether you agree or disagree, you have to agree to move along after a vote is taken, and that's not happening.
Okay. We have some Loudoun County residents here.
I was disappointed when the whole, opening up on the town council did not lead to you being nominated for that seat. I'm really sorry about that. But can you tell us a little bit more about what's happened in the last year on the town council? What sort of tensions are going on in there, and what the votes are going to, what's up for the next few years in terms of votes and policies?
Unfortunately, I think the conversation, and that's the incivility that people have towards each other, it's kind of a situation where it's almost not even about the partisanship, it's about people generally don't like each other. And when people don't like each other and live in the same house, they don't talk to each other, they don't visit with each other. And so the real discussion about important issues about roads and development, even about safety and security, about housing and land and with our developers, they happen in separate corners. And when people go to their separate corners and they're played out on a public stage, it really has turned off the town residents to the point where people don't engage. They don't come to town meetings, they don't think about town issues, decisions get made that people disagree with, but the effect is really that we have a town council that's not supportive of all the residents of the community.
Is it a couple people that are not, because Marty Martinez is the mayor, right?
No.
Oh, he's not now?
No.
Dave Butler.
Dave Butler.
Is the interim mayor.
Okay.
But think about that. Liz mentioned an earlier situation when former Mayor Christian Umstadt was elected to the Board of Supervisors that created a vacancy.
Okay.
And there's supposed to be an appointment for the interim mayor. And if it was somebody internal, then that would create another vacancy. And so Dave Butler got appointed, and we won't talk about the process, but read the editorial in the newspaper that basically said that the town council was very dysfunctional. So you had 16 well-qualified residents put their nomination in for a town council vacancy. And it was embarrassing the way that none of the candidates were vetted. None of the candidates had a chance to speak. There was some backdoor dealings, and one person got appointed in like 2 minutes of a meeting where you had 16 people, their families and friends show up to at least hear the names of their loved ones put into contention, and it never happened. And that's been whether it's about budget, whether it's about land development, whether it's about taxes, that's been the dysfunction of the largest town and the most wealthy county in America. There must be change.
Ron has been kind, I think, characterizing some of the problems, which I think speaks well for how he could get along when he is elected. But a member of the town council who is now the acting mayor, and the council was in equipoise, if you will, so that partisanship in a way couldn't work. They had to either do something or just be paralyzed, which is something, unfortunately, we've gotten used to in lots of elective bodies these days. And so Dave Butler made an arrangement with several other members, and that is why some of the citizens who hoped to be considered were dissed because they weren't part of that deal. This speaks ill of Dave Butler for going forward in a way that would allow people to work together. I believe Ron and others could work better with Kelly Burke, because otherwise you've sanctioned this arrangement. And I don't mean to characterize this as partisan, because at that level of politics, what is the ideology that says you should take care of a broken storm drain or a fire someplace in the city? These are, the citizen says, I don't really care. I just want to know what's happening to that problem. So that's the problem.
You don't run as a party nominee, right?
Well, you run with endorsements in this day and age, and
but
and it's
not officially as a nominee of a party.
No, you run with an endorsement.
From the point of view of somebody who lives in Broadlands and so doesn't have a dog in this fight, what I'm seeing in Leesburg is a smaller version of what's happening in Congress.
Right.
That
I think that's right.
That there's a whole lot of people who, like you said, really don't like each other, are holding grudges against each other, and I don't think that anybody's hands are clean in this particular instance. I think that there's a whole lot of long-term resentments, both internally to the Democrats, internally to the Republicans, and then externally across the aisles. And I think it's just...
Well, you know, we're still in the South, and I'll tell you what and Ron may comment
to the Bronx,
on it.
right?
Well, yeah, I've always been from the South. Both of us, we're both from the South Bronx. There was a diversion commission being created, and members of the council.
What's
diversity?
Diversity.
You said diversion.
Yeah, well.
Freudian slip.
Yeah, maybe it was. The Diversity Commission was to address what was happening nationally and locally. There are problems in our county, and we don't talk about them, frankly. And the opposition to that created, I think, legitimate divisions, because I think there's only one position to take on that in America these days, and that is we need conversation, we need discussion, we need outlets for political energy in which people feel offended so they can find out if they really are, because the communication can solve some of the tensions that we have, and I know Ron is a very strong supporter of this. But the other thing I'd say about Ron and anybody who's running, and Liz is a good example of this as well, is to look at politics as it is today and to run for office to try to make a difference and to try to change the dialogue and to try to be constructive and to say in the least offensive way what the problems are and to compel people to address them. That is the only solution that's going to work in America, whether it's at the most local race, the state, or the federal. And that's why I commend both Ron and Liz for having done what they did, and I think it'll reflect well on the constituency and its future should they elect Ron to the town council.
Well, this much I know, is I've talked to many people since January when I first announced, and I actually don't run using surrogates even to go door to door. I go, and my wife goes, but I go to every community. I talk to every business. I've talked with moderate Republicans who would talk to me, and I call them moderate Republicans because they'll talk to me.
Yeah.
But people want action. People want action. They want solutions, and they will at least want leadership that's willing to make decisions in a way that has process of inclusion of voices. And again, regardless of how the outcomes of decisions get made, they're willing to go along that the process was fair, it was transparent, and that people and respectful, and that we really had some dialogue with our citizens.
Yeah.
And so people need to start talking to each other. And I've had moderate Republicans say that for the first time in their experience, they will vote for a Democratic candidate because I don't hide my values, but it has no place at this level when I'm talking to a very broad community with very broad interest.
And I think so much of government is about that good management that keeps the process fair, that gives people a respectful ear to at least get their position out there. I want to shift the conversation a little bit. Our producer wanted us to talk about a proposed amendment to the Virginia Constitution, which is a change to Article 1, which boils down to basically prohibiting...
Supporting the right to work?
Yeah.
The right to work for less.
But prohibiting any companies, any entities within the Commonwealth from...
forcing people to join unions against their will.
No. Representatives of an existing workforce chose a union. And then you, an individual, want to work in that workforce, and you are bound by the majority rule, which happens to be a democratic principle.
Well,
now, if you're an employer who is against workers and want to control them and give them no rights and be able to fire them, you're for this amendment.
The thing that actually really frosts my cookies about these amendments
that's a union baker. That's a union baker, right?
That's a visual I'm working on.
Is that it actually is anti-employer. It's saying to employers, you don't have a right to negotiate with your employees to be a union shop or a non-union shop. You don't have the right as an employer to say, this is how we're going to run our shop.
As an employer, you don't have the right to force your employees to join a union against their will. Yes.
Well, you're not forcing them against their will.
And again, if you want to join a union, that is fantastic if that's what your choice is. I'm not opposing your choice to join a union. If you want to join a union, but you shouldn't tell other people they must join a union or any other group.
Jim, why does the Constitution of the Commonwealth need to be changed for that to?
Well, I didn't write the amendment, but it's on the ballot.
But it's already its current law.
I think they're probably concerned that
there's a political direction
people will be forced to join
that wants to put it into the Constitution. It currently exists. It's there because it's more difficult than to change the statute if it's in the Constitution.
Yeah.
But the statute currently exists, and that's the misleading part for people.
Given the setup of the General Assembly, I don't think that the current right to work law is going to get repealed anytime soon.
Then you don't have to worry about having a constitutional amendment. It's the same thing, right?
Yeah, but it's the dead hand of the Constitution that they hope will bridge between now, when it's a statute, and a legislature that might result from the public recoiling against bad Republican positions, particularly after this Trump election.
This might protect future workers from being forced to join groups against their will.
No, it might allow workers to organize, and that if you wanted to join that union shop, then you had to, in between elections and without an organization to change whether it's a union shop or not, you have to be a member of the union.
In order to work, you must join a union.
If you move into Virginia and you don't like the governor, can you change him?
That's
not until the next election. No, it's exactly the same principle.
So if you want
the same principle.
It's an abdication of the General Assembly's job to be putting this into the Constitution.
If if people want to join unions, that's great. Why would you then want to force people who don't want to join unions to join unions? Why wouldn't you win them over to your position rather than force them to join a group they don't want to join?
Do you think an employer
a workforce to have to beg and plead with each and every individual worker rather than each and every
democracy.
Each and every individual
no, but your
business.
Position is anti-democracy.
Your position is against democracy. You guys don't want to go to the people on this.
Okay,
but I think the people should be able to join what they do and don't want to join, and they shouldn't be forced to pay union dues if they don't want to join a union.
Let's go to the people. Should the people have the right
ever was working at
a fish market?
One of my first jobs ever was working at a fish market, Woolies Fish Market in Pittsburgh. It was awesome and disgusting and gross, and I loved it. And it was a union shop. Mm-hmm. And even as a cashier, I was a member of the United Food Workers Union.
UFCW.
UFCW, who are awesome as well, and they actually endorsed me when I was running last year, because I had no choice but to be a member of that union. I went to that job, I started that job, and minimum wage at the time was, I think, $5.35 an hour. And so working as a cashier anywhere else, I would have been earning $5.35 an hour. At that place, because I was a member of the union, I was earning $8 an hour. And of that $8 an hour, I paid $1 in union fees per hour. So I ended up with $7 an hour just for me. And paying $1 to get that $8 was only possible because
why
it was a
employers
closed
don't
shop.
like it. You guys, let's.
Pay less for.
We're not going to solve the union non-union debate here, but we did need to point out
You
that
did
that was
bring
going
it up,
on.
you know. We got to
told
vote.
to. And what I want to do the last 12 minutes we have is try to bring back to some of the congressional races and the linkage between some of the candidates and the national, the presidential nominees, and let's try to focus on what issues are people going to vote. What are the issues that are energizing the voters? Let's start with Ron.
There's certainly a real choice between Loudoun Bennett and Barbara Comstock as we look at the 10th congressional district race. And it is about women's rights to choose and health care. I think that are important. People are concerned about which presidential candidate that one may be aligned with more than the other because of the political stalemate condition that exists in Congress. And so we want people who are willing to stand up and be different and fight really for the voice of the people versus the voice of the party. And that's a real choice that people are going to have to consider.
Every door that I've knocked where people have been paying attention to the congressional races, and I'm really sorry to say that it's about 1 in 4 of the doors that I've knocked, and the doors I've knocked are likely voters. So, but 1 in 4 likely voters is actually paying attention to Congress, and they're really not liking Congress as it is right now. It's got a huge negative rating in terms of how people are looking at it. And so their feelings are, we need to throw the bums out. And for the first time, I'm really hearing not just the bums, but also my bum. We need to throw my bum out because we need to get things moving.
Well, Jim, let's let you talk about Barbara Comstock. Is she divorcing herself from the Trump rhetoric, or is she addressing
Barbara
that?
Comstock has a long record of supporting smaller government, lower taxes, and she's representing her district. And she was a very popular delegate before becoming a very popular congresswoman. So I think that I think polls have shown that she's in a pretty solid position. She is out there going
Are there
to
polls
a lot
when
of
you say very, very popular?
Well, I guess I'll go with the Cook political report. Didn't they have her as a safe seat, or at least leaning?
No, they moved it to leaning Republican.
Which is pretty good for the DC suburbs. At least leaning Republican.
It's been going between leaning and toss-up.
But it's leaning now, so it's moving in the right direction.
But issue-wise, I've seen her commercials. I can't, off the top of my head, think about like her core
Well, they have her
theme.
daughter and her granddaughter and her mother.
They have her daughter.
It's a great commercial.
Daughter saying, "My mom's great."
Well,
but I mean, it's nice, it's effective, but
we should debate her daughter. I don't know.
No, I just want to know
Your mom's not great.
issue-wise. I mean, whose daughter wouldn't go? Oh, my mom's doing a great job. But what issue-wise? What do you think? What's attractive about her?
Well, as I was mentioning, smaller government, lower taxes.
But what has she done? That's the typical Republican mantra.
That's why I ask people to vote Republican, because that is the typical Republican mantra.
But what has she?
Smaller government and lower taxes, and if people go into the ballot booth knowing that.
She voted for the transvaginal ultrasound bill. So her idea of smaller government is small enough to fit up a woman's vagina.
Wow.
Well, that is a soundbite. That's a soundbite for a very complicated issue. But Barbara Comstock has done a fantastic job. And she is, if you are concerned about jobs, if you're concerned about your taxes, about your wallet, you can vote for Barbara Comstock. And by the way, Barbara Comstock, here's the point. Barbara Comstock's been representing the district and going to community events. The Democratic candidate, has she been going to, even the Post had an article where they seemed to be mystified that she wasn't actually campaigning within her district, even though she was at a fine event outside the district. But but
been at
does
events.
she know?
She's
Does
been
she
at
know
every
where the
event I've
district
been
is?
at.
I've been at events with both of them,
Yeah.
and I've been at many events that they either choose to go to or not to, based on how their operatives tell them where they should be. So that's not new
Well,
news.
I mean,
but let me tell you, with the voting
she's
list,
not going to a lot of events in the 10th district.
Oh, yes, she has.
Oh, no, it's not
Barbara
true.
Comstock has been going to so many events across the district, and she keeps not seeing her opponent at these events. Where is the Democrat?
Well, I have
You mean
been at
Louann
several
Bennett?
where I've
you should know where Louann Bennett is, because one of your trackers goes to every.
My trackers.
That's one of your trackers
One
for
of
the
my
Republican
personal
Party.
Republican
That's right.
trackers,
It's
You
in
are
her,
an
it's in her
amazing
face
machine.
at every event that Louann Bennett goes to. I've even had to intervene.
Must be light work.
So you have
Not many
you have a
events.
camera on Louann Bennett
I've
wherever
been to
she
Well, I
goes.
suspect you
Where
guys have Barbara
I've been
followed
to-
around too.
all right,
I've
I'm
been to a
not-
lot of
But I'm
events
just saying, you
where
know where she
one of them
is.
is there,
so
and
we
then
talk
they
about
leave,
the
and then
horse
the other
race
one
thing.
shows
I'm
up.
not sure what that is a reference to. I would like.
reference is she
I would
doesn't
like to bring
represent
up
the district.
something. I'd like to take the moderator's prerogative
Yes.
and bring up something about this whole stamina issue or this accusation.
Does Louann
that-
Bennett have a stamina issue? I didn't know.
That's what you just implied, I thought, by saying, where is she? Where is she?
Oh, no,
John,
John, hold
let's
on.
go back.
I
Let's
wasn't
go back.
implying that. I was implying
can-
that she
can
doesn't
we-
spend much time in the district
John's
because
turn,
she
okay.
used to. She
Okay.
doesn't.
She's
does
all
she,
over the district.
It's John's turn.
It's not her stamina. It's
Okay,
whether
wait,
or not she knows the district well. I have no idea.
I think
I've
he's
seen her.
I don't know where you got that
I
from.
think Jim
I
is
can't
already
per-
doing better than Trump, who couldn't
Yes.
say it as clearly as he just
She's
did.
been at the
Okay,
Acts
you're
of
saying
John
go
and
ahead.
I'm
Well,
saying-
all over the
okay,
place.
he's
People
saying
were
she's
saying
not.
she doesn't
she's
live
not
in the
showing
district.
up
People were saying
as
she
much
doesn't
All
as
live
at
in the
quiet
many,
on the right front.
many
Okay.
events. Okay, I don't know what the statistics are, but this is the way I look at the race. Emotion counts more than issues this year, wrongly. Those who are in the respective bases, Republican has, who are in the Trump base, if you will, whatever that is, that's a strong emotional base. The Democrats have a mix of, I think, both rational policy wonkism and emotion for a number of reasons, involving the first woman candidate who's our nominee and who is likely to become our president, but it's not a closed issue. And we've all seen that the top of the ticket can bring along a candidate in an uncertain year. What Comstock has going for her are not the issues, in my opinion, which certainly reverberate with the base that's Democrat, and the independents perhaps more so. But what she does is what Wolf has done before, and I think she's not sure it's working, so she is going everywhere. And the constituent service thing, the same thing that helped Frank during bad seasons. And the only time that seat has changed has been a year like this, when there is a huge issue that has pitched the district from Democrat to Republican representation. So the circumstances exist. Whether it can happen with Louann this year is the question. If Hillary leads the state, if she wins Virginia, as I think is likely, it will matter to Louann whether it's 2% or 7%. That is Hillary Clinton, has just broadened her lead after this last debate. But it's been very volatile, so we don't know what it's going to look like by November. Louann, anybody who meets her or talks to her, is convinced she's solid on the issue and make a very fine representative. So you have an incumbent in a difficult year when formerly red state Virginia is going to go green, and the margin matters. And that's the horse race. If the margin is big, Louann stays the course. It'd be nice if Barbara would falter on one of the issues that matter. So I think it's a horse race, and it has gone. The vectors have gone in Louann's direction, which is it was solidly Republican. It's leaning Republican. It's been a toss-up. It's gone back. And the toss-up decision, I believe, went when Hillary Clinton had 7 or 8 points, or whatever her large number was in Virginia, according to a summary of the polls. So we all look at 538 and we follow those polls, and we follow other polls, but they're so volatile this year. I don't think this is a Harry Truman year in which it's going to flip and the Republican's going to win.
Yeah.
But it's possible.
Let me ask Ron.
Can I ask a quick question? I didn't take a look yesterday. Did Congress pass a budget?
No.
Okay.
They didn't. It's December 9th. It's a continuing resolution until September or December 9th.
So Comstock hasn't done her job.
Well, that's one
I want to
argument.
ask Ron
but a lot of
what he
Democrats-
thinks the
I remember
coattail.
these debates when the Democrats ran Congress.
Oh,
I
guys,
suspect you
I'll get
weren't
right
that
back to you. We
concerned
only have
then.
2.5 minutes left.
see
What do you
Arthur
think
saying,
the
right.
coattail effect's going to be of this election?
I think it's going to be a Democratic win because it is on policy, integrity, and it's going to be on trust moving with the future. So I think down the ticket, we're going to see some upsets, and we're going to see many changes in leadership positions and elected officials.
Okay. Jim?
We're talking about the 10th district or national?
I'm talking about overall. Let's say Virginia.
Okay, well, I think Barbara Comstock's going to win. I feel very confident about that. I think we have a real shot at winning Virginia. If with Tim Kaine being on the Democratic ticket, obviously will help some in Virginia. But I think we can win Virginia, and I think nationally, I think Trump has a good shot at it. He's the underdog clearly, but there have been varying polls. I think he has a shot at winning.
Would you be happy to have Donald Trump as our president?
Well, he's running against Hillary Clinton, absolutely. Would you be happy? I know you all would be happy to have Hillary Clinton as your president.
I am
but
mortified
I would
that
be
he's a
concerned.
candidate.
I would
Okay,
be
go ahead.
very, very concerned about that.
I have
Coattails.
I've been hoping for a Hillary president for the last.
Ever.
Tell me about
years.
coattails, though. Tie it to Virginia writ large.
Virginia at large, I think that Hillary wins Virginia. I think that there are congressional seats that will be flipped because of it. Whether or not Comstock gets booted out because of it, I'm not really willing to bet at the moment because it's just, I don't feel like the 10th district actually pays attention to the congressionals when I'm knocking on their doors. I mean, once I actually start talking to them.
That's your direct experience.
It's my direct
they're
experience.
Focused on the presidential, and then So I guess that might tell you something about coattails or at least trends. So we're almost done for this week. We're going to have a prediction show next month. I will be in Arizona climbing some mountain or something. So probably Marlene will be sitting in this chair. But wanted to thank everybody for joining us this October edition. See you one more time before the election. And vote early. Get your absentee ballot in if you're not home, college students. And thank you for joining us for the road to October 2016.